I didn't cry when he said it. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask why. I just looked at him and smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, but because something inside me had just locked into place. That sentence, at the party, "Act like you're not with me," wasn't a request. It was a warning. And what I did next, he never saw coming. If you've ever been made to feel invisible by someone who once made you feel chosen, you need to hear this until the end. And before we go further, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment the city you're watching from. I read every single one. My name is Iris Calder, and for most of my life, I learned how to see things other people missed. Not in a dramatic way. Not instinct. Not intuition. Patterns. I worked in network security, the kind of job where people only noticed you when something went wrong. My entire career was built on identifying silent breaches, subtle inconsistencies, invisible threats that most people ignored until it was too late. I wasn't loud. I wasn't impulsive. I watched. I analyzed. I waited. And for 3 years, I thought I had chosen someone who understood that about me. His name was Ethan Rowe. Ethan didn't just walk into rooms, he owned them. People listened when he spoke, laughed when he smiled, leaned in without realizing they were doing it. He worked in brand strategy, which made sense, because everything about him was curated. He knew how to present himself. More importantly, he knew how to be perceived. And somehow, he chose me. At least, that's what I believed. In the beginning, he paid attention to details no one else noticed. He'd remember things I casually mentioned weeks before. He'd bring me coffee exactly the way I liked it after long nights working. He used to sit beside me in silence, rare for him, and say, "Your brain never shuts off, does it?" And I'd answer honestly, no. Back then, he'd smile like that was something he admired. Like I was something he valued. Like I wasn't temporary. But things don't break all at once. They degrade. Slowly. Quietly. Strategically. At first, it was small shifts I almost dismissed. He stopped tagging me in photos. Then he stopped posting me altogether. Then he started taking calls in other rooms, not hiding, just relocating. Subtle enough to question. Not enough to confront. Every time I brought it up, his answers came fast, smooth, reasonable, impossible to pin down. It's just positioning. My clients don't care about my personal life. You're reading into things again. And maybe I was. Because nothing he did was blatant enough to accuse. Just controlled enough to confuse. But here's the problem with loving someone who studies patterns for a living. We don't forget inconsistencies. We archive them. And even though I didn't react, I was already collecting data. Every silence. Every shift in tone. Every moment where I felt edited out. Still, I stayed. Not because I didn't see it. But because I wasn't ready to accept what it meant. Until the night he said something so precise, so intentional, that it stopped being a pattern. And became proof. Why would someone who claimed to love me need me to disappear? If you had asked anyone about Ethan, they would have said the same thing. Confident. Successful. Charismatic. Untouchable. And if you asked about me, they'd hesitate for half a second before answering. Quiet. Smart. Private. It never sounded like a compliment in his circles. That was the imbalance I didn't fully see at first. Ethan didn't just exist in social spaces, he managed them. Every conversation, every introduction, every detail about his life was curated with intent. And slowly, without ever saying it directly, he started editing me out of that picture. At dinners, he'd introduce me by my job, not my name. "This is Iris, she works in cybersecurity." Not my girlfriend. Never that. At events, he'd drift. Not abruptly, smoothly. One conversation turning into another until I was no longer part of the frame. And when I pointed it out, he didn't deny it. He reframed it. You're not really into these people anyway. I'm just better at navigating this kind of environment. Relax, you're still here, aren't you? Still here. That phrase stayed with me longer than it should have. Because it wasn't reassurance. It was positioning. He wasn't elevating me into his world. He was shrinking me inside it. And the worst part? No one questioned it. Because from the outside, it didn't look like control. It looked like compatibility. He was the visible one. I was the background. Balanced. Functional. Normal. Except it wasn't. Because every time he spoke over me, every time he redirected attention away from me, every time he subtly erased our relationship in public, he wasn't just shaping how others saw me. He was testing how much I would tolerate. And I did tolerate it. For longer than I should have. Not because I didn't notice, but because I was still trying to understand the system he was building around me. Until one moment made it impossible to ignore. Because control is quiet, until it becomes humiliation. And when it did, I didn't react. I observed. And that changed everything. But how far was he willing to go, to make me disappear completely? The first moment that didn't sit right wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. That's why it took me a second longer than it should have to recognize it. We were at a small dinner with some of his colleagues, nothing formal, just drinks, low lighting, controlled laughter. The kind of setting where people measure each other without making it obvious. I was sitting next to him. Close enough to feel the warmth of his arm. And still, somehow not there. Mid-conversation, someone asked him directly, "So, are you seeing anyone right now?" It wasn't a complicated question. It should have been simple. But Ethan didn't answer right away. He smiled. That same practiced smile I'd seen 100 times, the one he used when he was about to shape a narrative. Then he said, casually, almost amused, "I tried to keep things uncomplicated." Uncomplicated. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't even look at him. But something inside me went completely still. Because that wasn't avoidance. That was a decision. He didn't forget about me. He didn't hesitate. He chose a version of reality where I didn't exist. And the table accepted it instantly. The conversation moved on like nothing had happened. No one questioned it. No one glanced at me. It was seamless. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the lie, but how easy it was for him to say it. Later, when we left, I asked, calmly, carefully, "Why didn't you just say you're in a relationship?" He didn't even look surprised. "Because it complicates things," he said. Just like that. No apology. No explanation. Just logic. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit before. I wasn't part of his life. I was something he edited depending on the audience. And if he could erase me that easily in a room full of people, what else had he already rewritten about us that I hadn't seen yet? The first time I felt humiliated. I didn't react. I memorized it. It happened 2 weeks later, at a networking event he insisted I attend. He said it would be the good exposure for me, even though nothing about that room had anything to do with my field. I went anyway. Not for the event. For him. At first, everything followed the same pattern. He introduced me vaguely, then drifted away, leaving me standing with people who barely tried to include me. I stayed composed. Observing. Always observing. Until I heard my name. Not from him, but about me. I turned slightly, just enough to listen without being obvious. Ethan was talking to a group near the bar. Laughing. Relaxed. Performing. And then he said it. "Yeah, she's brilliant, but she's not exactly someone you bring into every room." A pause. Then a quieter tone. Too intense. Not great for image. They laughed. Not loudly. Not cruelly. Just enough. That controlled kind of laughter people use when they're agreeing without fully committing. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. I just stood there, processing. Because that wasn't accidental. That was positioning. He wasn't just excluding me anymore. He was redefining me. Turning me into something inconvenient, so his absence from me would make sense. I didn't confront him. I didn't interrupt. I didn't even leave. I stayed. Watched him continue. Watched how easily he switched tones, how naturally he moved through people as if I were never part of his life to begin with. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not pain. Clarity. Because humiliation only works if you react the way they expect. And I didn't. I just asked myself one question. If this is what he's willing to say when I'm in the same room, what is he saying when I'm not? What hurt the most wasn't what he said. It was what I realized right after. I stopped seeing myself through my own eyes, and started seeing what he had turned me into. Someone optional. Someone adjustable. Someone he could reduce in public and still expect loyalty in private. That night, I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the version of me standing there. Not because I had changed. But because I had allowed someone else to define my value without noticing. I didn't cry. That would have been easier. Instead, I stood there replaying everything. The unanswered question at dinner. The introductions without meaning. The way he spoke about me instead of to me. It all connected. This wasn't new. I was just late in understanding it. When I walked back out, I didn't look for him. And for the first time in 3 years. He didn't look for me either. That was the real loss. Not him. But the confirmation that I had already disappeared in his world. So I asked myself something I had been avoiding. If I'm already invisible to him, what exactly am I still holding on to? After that night, I stopped asking questions. Not because I got answers, but because I didn't need them anymore. I became quieter. More distant. But not in a way he could accuse. I still showed up. Still listened. Still responded when he spoke. Just less. Less emotion. Less presence. Less of me. And he didn't notice. That was the part that confirmed everything. Ethan didn't react to my silence because he was used to it benefiting him. My absence had always made his life easier, smoother, more manageable. So when I started pulling back, he didn't see it as distance. He saw it as compliance. Meanwhile, I watched him more closely than ever. Not emotionally. Strategically. Every inconsistency. Every shift in behavior. Every moment where his words didn't match his actions. I stopped being his partner. And became an observer inside my own relationship. He thought he still had control. He thought nothing had changed. But internally, something had already ended. I just hadn't acted on it yet. Because before you leave a system, you understand it completely. And I was getting very close. The only question was, what would be the moment that made me act? The moment came quietly. Not during an argument. Not after another comment. It came when he told me about the party. Big opportunity, he said. Important people. You should come. I watched him while he spoke. Confident. Controlled. Already rehearsing how he'd move, who he'd talk to, what impression he'd leave. And I realized something simple. I wasn't part of that plan. Not really. Still, I said yes. Not because I believed in the relationship anymore. But because I needed confirmation. That night wasn't about us. It was data. I prepared slowly, carefully. Not to impress anyone, just to observe clearly. No distractions. No emotional interference. When I walked into the room, I didn't look for attention. I looked for patterns. And within minutes, I saw it. The distance. The shifts. The way he moved away from me like it was instinct. No hesitation. No acknowledgement. Like I was already invisible. That's when I knew. This wasn't temporary behavior. This was who he had decided to be. And who he had decided I was. So I made a decision. Not emotional. Not reactive. Final. I just needed one more thing. One clear signal that would justify everything I was about to do. And then, he gave it to me. In one sentence that changed everything. We were getting ready. He was adjusting his jacket, checking himself in the mirror like the night already belonged to him. I was behind him, silent, watching. Then, without turning, he said it. Tonight, just act like you're not with me. No hesitation. No discomfort. Just instruction. For a second, the room felt completely still. Not because I was shocked, but because everything finally aligned. Every pattern. Every omission. Every calculated distance. It all led to this. I didn't ask why. I didn't argue. I didn't even let him see anything shift in me. I just met his reflection in the mirror and smiled. Okay, I said. And he nodded, satisfied. Like I had just made his life easier. Like I had confirmed exactly who he thought I was. But what he didn't understand was that he hadn't just set a condition for the night. He had defined the end. Because if he wanted me to disappear, I would. Just not the way he expected. And not temporarily. Completely. The only question left was timing. Should I leave now, or let him fully expose himself first? The party started. I stayed in the background. Quiet. Calm. Invisible. Ethan moved through the room like a king, effortless, flawless. He laughed, flirted, introduced himself to the powerful and influential, all while making sure no one saw me with him. I watched. Not hurt. Not angry. Just cataloging. Every compliment he accepted from others. Every casual comment about being single to impress. Every dismissive glance in my direction. He believed he controlled the story. And in a sense, he did. Except the narrator had already changed. I wasn't reacting. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't proving anything. I was watching him unravel his own illusion. And the moment he called me a weight to anyone who would listen, I knew. The night he thought he had erased me completely. He had just written the first chapter of his own undoing. But he had no idea the real consequences were already in motion. I left the party early. Not in anger. Not in tears. Not with a scene. I simply walked out. Quietly. Deliberately. No one noticed. Not the guests. Not Ethan. Not even the friend he relied on to make me blend in. Back home, I packed. Slowly. Thoughtfully. Each item chosen to remind me of nothing except my own life. My identity. My future. Before I left, I wrote one thing. A note. Short. Clear. You wanted me to act like I wasn't here. Now you don't have to pretend. I left it on the counter. Then I disappeared. No calls. No explanations. No social media breadcrumbs. And for the first time in years, I felt control. He would think he had power. He would assume my silence was submission. But my absence would speak louder than anything I could say. And soon, he would learn that the story he tried to write was already rewritten without him. The morning after, I stayed silent. No calls. No texts. No hints. Ethan didn't know I had already left. He assumed I was sulking, maybe taking a day to process, like he would have done in any scenario he controlled. But the complication wasn't mine. It was his. The woman he had been trying to impress that night, the one he used to upgrade his image, saw him clearly for the first time. The charm. The effortless charisma. The smile that fooled everyone. She noticed the control, the manipulation, the way he erased me to make himself look better. Her expression changed. Subtle. But enough. I had anticipated this, indirectly. Patterns. Reactions. Predictable human behavior. And while I didn't speak, I knew she would start questioning him. She would start seeing the truth. Meanwhile, he panicked silently, trying to maintain the image he had built. No one else had my perspective. No one knew the full story. And yet, the first cracks were appearing, without me ever raising my voice. Sometimes the most dangerous move is not acting at all, and letting the pieces fall where they may. Leaving wasn't easy. I didn't just walk away from Ethan. I walked away from everything we had built together, the apartment, the shared routines, the small comfort of familiarity. Every piece of my life tied to him felt like a chain I had to break. I sacrificed convenience. Comfort. Security. Because if I wanted real freedom, I had to erase myself from his world completely. I stayed off social media. I avoided mutual friends. I let people think I was hurt, confused, even petty. No one would see what I truly felt. No one would know that this was strategy. The hardest part was not the leaving itself. It was giving up the immediacy of satisfaction, the chance to confront him, to explain, to watch him squirm. I trusted the system I had observed for months, human behavior, patterns, ego. I didn't need words or arguments to win. I just needed time. And patience. Because the moment he would feel he had me under control, that would be the moment the world saw his undoing. Days passed, and I remained invisible. Ethan called. Texted. Even sent messages through mutual friends. I ignored everything. He believed he could manipulate the narrative. Twist the story. Make people see me as controlling, unreasonable, or weak. But the final trap wasn't confrontation. It was observation. I had recorded patterns, documented his lies, and quietly aligned allies, the ones who had always seen through him. The woman at the party confirmed what I had suspected. He flaunted me only when convenient and tried to replace me when it suited his image. His own sister, who had witnessed his manipulation for years, quietly reinforced my truth to mutual friends. No dramatic reveal from me. No public accusation. Everything I had collected, the calls, the text messages, the stories from witnesses, would speak for itself at the right moment. I let him think he was winning. That he was untouchable. Meanwhile, I was setting the stage. Because the power wasn't in my voice. It was in my absence. And soon, the illusion he had built so carefully would crumble. The truth came out quietly and brutally. Ethan tried to spin the story. Told friends I was controlling, cold, unreasonable. Claimed I vanished without reason. But the evidence spoke louder. The woman he tried to impress confirmed his manipulations. She admitted how he flattered her while erasing me. His sister corroborated every detail, how he twisted stories, erased relationships, and used people for his image. Mutual friends, confused at first, pieced it together. The timeline of lies. The subtle erasures. The moments he had publicly called me of weight, while pretending I didn't exist. Even his social circle began noticing inconsistencies in his stories. Suddenly, his carefully curated image cracked. The woman he wanted to replace me? She blocked him. His charm, his status, his control, all undone, not by confrontation, not by rage, but by my silence, my strategy, my disappearance. And me? I watched from afar as he struggled to maintain what he thought he owned. The man who demanded I vanish to make himself look better, became the one everyone now saw through. And it was perfect, because I never needed to lift a finger. After the revelation, I never heard from Ethan again, not directly. His calls went unanswered. His messages vanished into blocked folders. His attempts to rewrite the story were ignored. I moved out of the city. New apartment. New routines. No reminders of a life where I had been minimized. I rebuilt myself piece by piece. Professionally, emotionally, socially. My career flourished. I regained friendships I hadn't realized I'd neglected. The people who mattered knew the truth. The allies who had witnessed his manipulations quietly supported me without ever needing me to explain. Every lie he told was exposed. Every story he twisted was corrected by witnesses, the woman he tried to impress, his sister, and mutual friends who saw through him. Ethan lost more than me. Reputation. Influence. Stability. Even financial security faltered. He was forced to move back with his parents. Every public attempt to justify himself contradicted his own past actions. Meanwhile, I started dating again, carefully. Slowly. Someone calm, respectful, and present. The contrast was striking. No games. No control. No one minimizing me. I never sought revenge. I didn't confront him. I didn't argue. My strategy was silence, patience, and disappearance. And it worked perfectly. The man who asked me to disappear. I disappeared. From his life. From his story. And in doing so, I took back everything he tried to steal, my dignity, my power, my future. I learned something that night at the party. The ultimate revenge isn't noise or anger, it's indifference, strategy, and the courage to walk away. And now, I am finally free. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit the like button and show your support. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I love seeing how far this story reaches. And make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that keeps you hooked until the very last second. Your support makes these videos possible, and I can't wait to share the next one with you.